Section 5 of Völsungasaga. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Völsungasaga by Anonymous. Translated by Eric Magnusson and William Morris. Section 5, Chapter 16. There was a man hight Gripir, who was Sigurd's mother's brother. And a little after the forging of the sword, Sigurd went to Gripir, because he was a man who knew things to come, and what was fated to men. Of him Sigurd asked diligently how his life should go, but Gripir was long or he spake. Yet at the last, by reason of Sigurd's exceeding great prayers, he told him all his life, and the fate thereof, even as afterwards came to pass. So when Gripir had told him all even as he would, he went back home. And a little after he and Regin met. Then said Regin, "Go thou and slay Fafnir, even as thou hast given thy word." Sigurd said, "That work shall be wrought, but another is first to be done, the avenging of Sigmund the king, and the other of my kinsmen who fell in that their last fight." Chapter 17. Now Sigurd went to the kings and spake thus: "Here have I abode a space with you, and I owe you thanks and reward for great love and many gifts and all due honor. But now will I away from the land, and go meet the sons of Hunding, and do them to wit that the Volsungs are not all dead. And your might would I have, to strengthen me therein." So the kings said that they would give him all things soever that he desired. And therewith was a great army got ready, and all things wrought in the most heedful wise, ships and all war gear, so that his journey might be of the stateliest. But Sigurd himself steered the dragon keel, which was the greatest and noblest. Richly wrought were their sails, and glorious to look on. So they sail, and have wind at will. But when a few days were overpast, there arose a great storm on the sea, and the waves were to behold even as the foam of men's blood. But Sigurd bade take in no sail, howsoever they might be riven, but rather to lay on higher than heretofore. But as they sailed past the rocks of a Ness, a certain man hailed the ships, and asked who was captain over that navy. Then was it told him that the chief and lord was Sigurd the son of Sigmund, the most famed of all the young men who now are. Then said the man, "Naught but one thing certes do all say of him, that none among the sons of kings may be likened unto him. Now fain were I that ye would shorten sail on some of the ships, and take me aboard." Then they asked him of his name, and he sang, "Hnikar I hight when I gladdened Hugin, and went to battle, bright son of Volsung. Now may ye call the carle on the cliff top Feng or Fjolnir. Fain would I with you." They made for land therewith, and took that man aboard. Then quoth Sigurd, as the song says, "Tell me this, O Hnikar, since full well thou knowest, fate of gods, good and ill of mankind, what best our hap foreshoweth, when amid the battle about us sweeps the sword edge?" Quoth Hnikar, "Good are many tokens, if thereof men wotted, when the swords are sweeping. Fair fellow deem I the dark-winged raven in war to weapon wielder. The second good thing, when abroad thou goest for the long road well arrayed, good if thou seest two men standing, fain of fame, within the forecourt. A third thing, good hearing the wolf a howling abroad under ash boughs. Good hap shalt thou have dealing with helm staves, if thou seest these fair before thee. No man in fight his face shall turn against the moon's sister, low, late shining. For he winneth battle who best beholdeth through the midmost sword play, and the sloping ranks best shapeth. Great is the trouble of foot ill tripping. when arrayed for fight thou farest, for on both sides about are the Disir by thee, guileful, wishful of thy wounding. Fair-combed, well-washen, let each warrior be, nor lack meat in the morning. For who can rule the eve's returning, and base to fall before fate grovelling? Then the storm abated, and on they fared till they came a land in the realm of Hunding's sons, and then Fjolnir vanished away. Then they let loose fire and sword, and slew men, and burnt their abodes, and did waste all before them. A great company of folk fled before the face of them to Yngvi the king, and tell him that men of war are in the land, and are faring with such rage and fury that the like has never been heard of, and that the sons of King Hunding had no great forecast in that they said they would never fear the Volsungs more, for here was come Sigurd, the son of Sigmund, as captain over this army. So King Yngvi let send the war message all throughout his realm, and has no will to flee, but summons to him all such as would give him aid. So he came against Sigurd with a great army, he and his brothers with him, and an exceeding fierce fight befell. Many a spear and many an arrow might men see there raised aloft, axes hard driven, shields cleft and byrnies torn, helmets were shivered, skulls split atwain, and many a man felled to the cold earth. And now, when the fight has long dured in such wise, Sigurd goes forth before the banners, and has the good sword Gram in his hand, and smites down both men and horses, and goes through the thickest of the throng with both arms red with blood to the shoulder. And folk shrank aback before him wheresoever he went, nor would either helm or byrnie hold before him, and no man deemed he had ever seen his like. So a long while the battle lasted, and many a man was slain, and furious was the onset, till at last it befell, even as seldom comes to hand when a land army falls on, that, do whatso they might, naught was brought about. But so many men fell of the sons of Hunding that the tale of them may not be told. And now, whenas Sigurd was among the foremost, came the sons of Hunding against him, and Sigurd smote therewith at Yngvi the king, and clave him down, both helm and head and mail-clad body. And thereafter he smote Hjörvarth his brother, atwain, and then slew all the other sons of Hunding who were yet alive, and the more part of their folk withal. Now home goes Sigurd with fair victory won, and plenteous wealth and great honour, which he had gotten to him in this journey, and feasts were made for him, against he came back to the realm. But when Sigurd had been at home but a little, came Regin to talk with him, and said, Belike thou wilt now have good will to bow down Fafnir's crest, according to thy word plighted, since thou hast thus revenged thy father and the others of thy kin. Sigurd answered, That will we hold to, even as we have promised, nor did it ever fall from our memory. Chapter 18. Now Sigurd and Regin ride up the heath along that same way wherein Fafnir was wont to creep when he fared to the water. And folk say that 30 fathoms was the height of that cliff along which he lay, when he drank of the water below. Then Sigurd spake, How sayest thou, Regin, that this drake was no greater than other lingworms? Methinks the track of him is marvellous great. Then said Regin, Make thee a hole, and sit down therein, and whenas the worm comes to the water, smite him into the heart, and so do him to death, and win for thee great fame thereby. But Sigurd said, What will betide me, if I be before the blood of the worm? Says Regin, Of what avail to counsel thee if thou art still afeard of everything? Little art thou like thy kin in stoutness of heart. Then Sigurd rides right over the heath, but Regin gets him gone, sore afeard.